Living nigga everywhere I go, man. Juicy J, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, spin that shit.
Living nigga everywhere I go, man. Juicy J, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, spin that shit.
Memphis nigga everywhere I Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Living nigga everywhere I go.
Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Living nigga everywhere I go.
Eyes all red like city gear. Draw down on him, make a fuck nigga, give it here. Jeff #1, I'm the rookie of the year. Wanna see a mad street, make a nigga disappear. Real Memphis nigga when I'm looking in the mirror. Yo,
Memphis nigga everywhere I go, this the remix.
Ay.
Memphis nigga going up like the G-Mix.
ay, everybody outside, it's the freak nigga. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Fuck nigga, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Let's get it.
Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Let's get it. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Let's get it.
Memphis nigga everywhere I big head that hoe. Memphis shit, that's how I feel. Shit might check me a hoe, might flame me a hoe. Spit a little game on a hoe, never spent change on a hoe. Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
He ain't even been to the city before. Fuck nigga, he ain't even been to the city. He ain't even been to the city before. Let's get it. Nigga came once, but he can't come back no more. These Memphis nigga when I drop my low. Yo, nigga want smoke, let's go. Yo, bitch want smoke, fuck nigga, I call Big Glow. Yo,
Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Okay. Memphis bitch everywhere I let's get. Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Okay. Memphis bitch everywhere I on the count. Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Might take a bitch nigga, might take a nigga home. Riding down Fraser be coolin' with some hot boys still doing donuts in the smoke. Getting money ass bitch, that's me. That's me. Tomato fruit M's and I still want more. Now if Memphis bitch got hold. Win, lose, or draw, bitch, I still want smoke. I ain't shit but 25. Let's go. Already a legend up in my city. Bump down, bump 3-6. Hey, man, play me some of that pimpin'. Gangsta ass bitch, stay muggin'. Everywhere I go, I'm thuggin'. Memphis bitch, everywhere I go. Let's go. And everywhere I go, they love me.
Yeah, living nigga everywhere I step through. 3-6 Mafia and Gangsta Boo. You know what it is, my nigga. My city full of gorillas that ain't from the zoo. North Memphis nigga so infamous. Rest in peace, Lord Infamous. Old school nigga with the pole in the cut. I hear making easy money tryna pimp a slut. Fraser Boulevard in a car all candy. South Memphis bitch, she ain't wearing no panties. She ain't never been nowhere outside our city. I'm a draper in Dior and I'ma take it to the Grammys. Memphis nigga everywhere I step on the scene. Ride through Evergreen, blowing get it green. Give a little bad bitch a hug. With all this water on me, she gon' have a wet dream. You don't know nothing about Hyde Park. You don't really wanna stop by after dark. Even Nick K's know the city I'm reppin'. Have a nigga scat pack go to 60 seconds. 20 years plus I'd have been in this thing. And a nigga like me ain't never gon' change. Rollin' up dope while I'm sitting so close. I can walk on the floor at the Grizzly game.
I want EP and chicken and dog. She wanna receive under the heart. I'm with Lil P and I'm motherfucking pot. I be like Cheeky, we say squad. Nigga there.
Ayy, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Get 100 bread a piece when I'm in the stove. Parkway Village, I'm a native. Still had a duck posted up in the Dover. Young nigga wanna be like Craig Pettis, bro wanna be G-Train. Afghanistan top tier, tell Biden send us to Ukraine. Drake made sure we try global. Let me tell you about Poplar. We'll stop and deals go for a couple bucks, she'll take it so. East Memphis, that's NLE. North Memphis, that's got it. South Memphis, long live flipper. West Memphis, that ain't Memphis. On EP, eating chicken at Dodge before a nigga went vegan. Might get his 6P from Crumpets. All done left, it's the best jack. Is she from Memphis with a bun on? She give more head than a lace front. Me go my partner from back in the day, but I heard he hit him a lace blunt. Tell white folks he my nigga. Hey Max Snoop, I got a beer for you. From a city where you win it, they don't even really wanna even cheer for you. Deep down they be hating on you, but too quick to say I love you. In Memphis it's a red flag if she ain't blood and she say brother. Everybody gotta switch in this bitch. Game be beefing with clicks. Tell DJ yo where the dream ball at. I'm tryna stomp some shit. 2016 at the Delta Fair in the corn maze, you could die there. Long live J Money Truly, when he died, whole city had tears. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. I don't care if it was Idaho. Before Ja, it was Mike Cunning. Before Jaren, it was Zebo. NLE don't get his credit, but I'm really hometown hero. Might use a key to the city just to lock my back door. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere. Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Good morning. Y'all see what's on the screen? Y'all seen the thumbnail? I'm enjoying making these thumbnails, I must say. I really am. Truth, I'm worried about you because you scheduled a live You ain't never sent out the email. I had text you for your live and you ain't respond. And then I text you this morning and asked if you was okay and you ain't respond. So I'm worried about you, old lady. Holler at me. Yeah, but y'all see this? You see? Old Dr. King. He ain't what we thought he was. I got a lot of reading to do. Y'all see this? Do it say on the screen there? Yep. All right, let's just let y'all see everything that's going on in here. I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I can't see the chat because I'm on this screen reading. And yeah, I ain't going to be switching back and forth. I'm going to just keep reading. This table of contents there. Alleged conspiracies. Okay. Can we get to the good shit? The story of James Earl Ray. Appendix A. I wonder if they gonna yeah, so never mind. I don't know what none of this is. Come on, G. Mission of the task force. One, the problem. On November 1st, 1975, and I'm hoping that y'all could see it too. I'm reading it for you, but I tried to make it big as possible for y'all that would be viewing at home and on your TV. Now, on the device, if it ain't big enough, you could cut the comments off to make your screen bigger, turn your device sideways, and things of that nature. So make it go bigger. All right, the problem. On November 1st, 1975, William C. Sullivan, former Assistant Director, Domestic Intelligence Division, FBI, testified before the Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities. He related that from late 1963 and continuing into the assassination of MLK, King was the target of an intensive campaign by the FBI to neutralize him as an effective civil rights leader. Sullivan stated that in the war against King, no holes were barred. Senate Report number 94-755. Final report of the Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, blah, blah, blah. This and other testimony describing the FBI counterintelligence campaign against King reached the public through the news media. As a consequence, there was a regeneration of the widespread speculation on the possibility that the Bureau may have had some responsibility in Dr. King's death and may not have done an impartial and thorough investigation of the assassination. The Attorney General's Directive. On November 24th, 1975, the Attorney General of the United States directed the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to undertake a review of the files of the department and its Federal Bureau investigation to determine whether the investigation of the assassination of MLK should be reopened. More particularly, it was sought to be determined whether any action taken in relation to King by the FBI before the assassination had or may have had an effect, direct or indirect, on that event, and whether any action was taken, and whether any action was taken by the FBI which had or may have had other adverse effects on Dr. King. Recommendations for criminal, disciplinary, or other appropriate action were requested. The review up to April 26, 1976. In the next 4 months, the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Civil Rights Division, his principal deputy assistant attorney general, and the chief of the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division, serving as a review staff. acting as a review staff, variously read portions of the FBI headquarters file on a person who served as an advisor to Dr. King, portions of the FBI headquarters security file on Dr. King, portions of the FBI headquarters file on the assassination investigation. I guess some department, as opposed to FBI files relating to Dr. King and other bureau documents, including everything on Martin Luther King Jr. held in the late J. Edgar Hoover's official, confidential, and personal files. By memorandum to the Attorney General dated April 9, 1976, the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Civil Rights Division submitted a 51-page report of the Chief of the Civil Rights Division Criminal Section dated March 31, 1976, embodying the results of the three-man study limited to the above listed files and concentrating almost exclusively on the pre-assassination surveillance and counterintelligence activities against Dr. King. The Assistant Attorney General recommended the creation of a departmental task force to complete the review he and his team had begun. He also recommended an advisory committee of distinguished citizens to advise with the task force. The further review proposed included interrogation of material witnesses, reading all the pertinent field office files, and reviewing all the headquarter files relating to Dr. King and possibly to other civil rights activists. A recommendation was made to review tapes secured by electronic surveillance with the view to determining which of such material should be and could be legally destroyed. The Assistant Attorney General felt the FBI should assess the culpability of its agents involved in the wrongdoing by the principals named in the report. His memorandum to the Attorney General concluded that probably criminal redress was time-barred. The civil remedies might be available to the King family, but might also be more embarrassing than helpful, and hence the consideration be given to a direct payment by the settlement process or by private bill to compensate the King survivors or with the survivor concurrence. The King Foundation, if this last issue were left to the task force or an advisory commission, it should consider the pros and cons and recommend as it sees fit. The Attorney General forwarded the Civil Rights Division memorandum and comments thereon from the Deputy Attorney General, the Solicitor General, from staff members, and blah, 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 blah. Office of Professional Responsibility, the Attorney General charged the office, blah, 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 blah. Come on, get to the good shit. I don't care about this. I ain't reading all this shit. I'm just gonna read the important stuff. I need a thirst break. Y'all can read along for yourselves on the non-important stuff. Oh yeah, yours truly, that she did not sue no damn doctor for killing him. That shit it's conspiracy. It ain't happened. Didn't nobody go to jail from this from the FBI. As the fourth point, I again note that from the partial review which has been made, Mr. Pottinger concludes we have found the FBI undertook a systematic program of harassment. Of MLK by means both legal and illegal. So there's legal harassment in order to discredit him and harm both him and the movement he led, assuming that the major statutory violations relevant to this conduct would be 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and Section 242. Mr. Pottinger's memorandum concludes that any prosecution contemplated under those acts would now be barred by the 5-year statute of limitations, with the possible exception which would exist if there were proof of a continuing conspiracy. As to the matter of the new evidence with respect to the assassination, my understanding is that the department has never closed the MLK file and that numerous allegations of the possible involvement of co-conspirators are promptly investigated. The thrust of the review which I requested, however, was to determine whether a new look at what was done by the Bureau in investigating the assassination or in the relationship between the Bureau and Dr. King might give a different emphasis or new clues in any way to the question of involvement in that crime. At this point in the review, as I read the memoranda, nothing has turned up relevant on this latter point. The review is not complete. Mr. Pottinger and all those who have commented upon his memorandum recommend the review be complete. Mr. Pottinger has also made other recommendations upon which there is some difference of opinion. In my view, it is essential that the review be completed as soon as possible and in as thorough a manner as is required to answer the basic questions. In view of what has already been done and the tentative conclusions reached, special emphasis should be given to the fourth question in conducting this review. You should call upon the department to furnish to you the staff you need. Excuse me. My conclusion as to the review conducted by the Civil Rights Division is that it is now shown that this complete review is necessary, particularly in the view of the conclusion as to the systematic program of harassment. If your review turns up matters for specific action, we should discuss the best way to proceed on each such case. Damn. This is a lot of shit. The Council of the Office of Professional... I don't want to read all this shit. I want the good stuff. James F. Walker, and a retired attorney who is currently a consultant to the tax division. What the fuck? A senior man, the latter was designed to head the task force. I don't care about that. Consideration of a tentative outline for eventual report based on the chronology of events in the relationship between MLK and the Bureau brought the task force up against the fact that the field of the history for the assassination just been plowed twice, once by the Civil Rights Division and once by the Senate Select. I don't know what that. Now, we'll contrast, however, the matter of the assassination of Dr. King and the ensuing investigation had been judged by the Civil Rights Division's Assistant Attorney General. Bureau's comprehensive, thorough, I don't see that. Consensus review. All this is bullshit, y'all. Yeah, this is just more bullshit. This is explaining why they doing this. You don't really care. Merkin, the acronym for murder of King. Merkin? So that's where we get the term Merc from. See, you learn something new every day. You learn something new every day. I did not know this. Merkin. Can I highlight so I can? All right, awesome. Yeah, Merkin. 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 Acronym murder of Dr. King. How did they get that though? Whatever. Common Field being an acronym for communist infiltration. I guess that's communist. SLC, Southern Leader. We ain't got nothing else. USA Negro question. Negro question. But they was talking freely back then. What do y'all think a Negro question is, just out of curiosity? I'm stopping because I can't keep looking at the screen and then I need to drink something. So I'm drinking my Rip It. I don't know how I'm going to smoke and try to read this shit. That's just not going to be possible at all. He got one hat. Okay, page 10. Oh, come on. Can we give us some good shit? the more voluminous of the pertinent files. See, y'all didn't think I knew that word. Voluminous. Some people will say voluminous, but no, it's voluminous. Of the pertinent files, in addition to the FBI headquarters files and the Washington field files, were located in Memphis, Atlanta, Baltimore, Charlotte. Damn, they followed this nigga across the country. So every field office this nigga went to had files on. Let me read that again. He had files in Memphis, Atlanta, Baltimore, Charlotte, Birmingham, New Orleans, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Kansas City, St. Louis, Omaha, Nebraska, Chicago, Springfield, Illinois, Milwaukee, and New York. God damn. These were examined and placed by visits by task force personnel. The remaining files were Xerox. Damn, I hadn't heard that word in a long time. And forwarded for review in Washington. Pertinent newspaper clipping files maintained by the department and by the Bureau and its field offices were scanned. In terms of, they were scanning in 1970? Okay then. I'm not reading this. Come on, can we get to the good shit? Man, this is bullshit. I want the good stuff. What we got here? That doesn't look like anything good. I want to know what they say about Jesse in here. I wonder how his family feels reading this. I'm sure they've read it. James Earl Ray. Officer of the Clerk of Shelby County. That's nothing good. They just telling us. All right. The Assassination Investigation, events surrounding April 4th, 1968, the Poor People's Campaign. To understand the movements of Dr. King during this critical period, it is necessary to briefly discuss the Poor People's Campaign, originally called the Washington Spring Project, in which he and the SCLC were involved. POCAM was scheduled to begin the first week of April 1968 and involved recruiting some 3,000 poor unemployed blacks from 16 localities in the United States for the purpose of going to Washington, D.C. and petitioning the government to approve their economic status. The plan was to camp on the Washington Monument or Lincoln Memorial grounds during the first and second weeks. Demands would be made of congressmen and heads of departments such as Secretary of Labor. If the demands were not met, nonviolent demonstrations were to be conducted. Dr. King's planned travel, scheduled for February and March, included trips to 9 major cities and visits to various points in Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. By mid-February, King had become discouraged with the lack of progress in recruiting. Because he was trying to get poor people to travel. They was already poor. How they were going to travel? Lack of progress in recruiting and training demonstrators. During this low point in the POCAM, Dr. King was persuaded to alter his plans and go to Memphis, Tennessee in support of a strike involving the city's sanitation workers. Shout out to my granddaddy. Memphis sanitation workers strike. February 12, 1968, approximately 1,000 sanitation workers employed by the city of Memphis called a wildcat strike. The strikers were represented by Local 1733 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, who demanded exclusive recognition of the union as bargaining agent, setting up grievance procedures, wage improvements, payroll deduction of union dues, and a promotion system, as well as pension, hospitalization, and life insurance program. The NAACP intervened in the strike because all the sanitation workers, excluding drivers, were black. A militant young black power group known as the Invaders was similarly interested in the strike. The group consisted of about 15 members, mostly high school dropouts, and was a cell of a larger group known as Black Organizing Power, BOP, headed by Charles L. Cabbage and John B. Smith. I've never heard of this. The alleged purpose of BOP was to stimulate a sense of black identity, black pride, and black consciousness in young blacks. How many of y'all knew about BOP? Or them other two people that they said had ran it? Oh, this is interesting. I'm a nerd, I'm sorry. It's boring, but I like being boring sometimes. I see some of y'all like being boring too. Shout out to the people that are here. The strikers were also supported by a group of black ministers connected with the Memphis Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. And I just also get to flex my reading skills too. So that's another reason I'm doing it. Who adopted the name CUM. Pause. Is that CUM or is that IM? Well, I don't know what that says CUM. COM, Community on the Move for Equality. Pause. It was members of this group that was instrumental in bringing Dr. King to Memphis. On March 3rd, the Reverend James M. Lawson Jr., pastor of the Centenary Methodist Church, Memphis, and members of IME stated on a television program, WHBQ, we still got this station, Channel 13, that he wanted to bring Dr. King and other heads of civil rights organizations to Memphis in an effort to unify the entire black community behind the demands of the strikers. The intervention of these various black community organizations caused the city of Memphis to be concerned about the racial overtones of the strike and the possibility of violence. Dr. King made his first visit to Memphis in support of the strike on the night of March 18, 1968. On that occasion, in addressing an estimated crowd of 9,000 to 12,000 people at a rally sponsored by CUM at the Mason Temple, he called for a general protest day on March 22nd, 1968. All blacks were asked not to go to work or school on that day and were urged to participate in a massive downtown march. Dr. King and his party stayed at the Lorraine Motel, 406 Millbury Street, on the night of March 18th, 1968, and left Memphis shortly before noon on March 19th, 1968, ostensibly to go to the state of Mississippi in connection with the POCAM. The city of Memphis was virtually paralyzed by a 16-inch snowfall on March 28th, 1968. Well, god damn. That's almost April. It got 16 inches of snow. I think we probably had no snow like that since then. I don't know. Yeah, I'm stretching. Hey, I have to stop every few minutes. Stop looking at this screen. Hey, Miss Tia. Hey, Latanya. Those are the new people I see in there. I'm not letting, I got one hat. I'm not letting it go. I know that's what you're talking about. I'm not letting it go. Oh. 16-inch snowfall resulting in the postponement of the planned mass march to March 28th, 1968. Dr. King returned to Memphis on the 28th, arriving at the airport approximately 10:22 a.m. I wonder how much plane tickets cost back then. By that time, the approximately 5,000 to 6,000 people, about half of whom were school age, had congregated at Claiborne Temple for the start of the march. According to the plan of the march, the sanitation workers were in front with the remainder of the people following behind. The march was to proceed north on Hernando to Beale Street, thence west on Beale Street to Main Street, and north on Main Street to City Hall. The march got underway at approximately 11 a.m. and had proceeded to Hernando and Beale before it was joined by Dr. King. When the front of the march led by Dr. King reached Main Streets, teenagers and young adults at the rear of the march near 3rd and Beale, 2 blocks from the front of the march, ripped the signs off their poles and began breaking store windows and looting. Young niggas. It's always young niggas. Mass confusion developed and the police moved in to quell the disturbance. The disruption of the march caused Dr. King's side to commandeer an automobile, and Dr. King and his part. I love their language back then, the words they used. It's like they were speaking in an entirely different tone and language. They commandeered an automobile, which means they stole one. It was a nigga driving, and like how they do on a police show where the police flash the badge and say, hey, give me your car. That's what they did. They ran up to some nigga. Hey, man, it's Dr. King. You might get your car back. We need it, though. And Dr. King and his party were escorted by police to the Rivermont Hotel operated by Holiday Inns of America. Holiday Inn been getting money for a long time. Dr. King left the march at 11:15 a.m., checked into the Rivermont at 11:24, where he stayed until March 29th. Dr. King and his party were scheduled to return to Atlanta on March 28th at 9:05 via Eastern Airlines and were scheduled to leave Atlanta the morning of March 29th, headed for Baltimore. Thus, remaining in Memphis on the night of the 28th was a change in plans. The city ordered a 7 p.m. curfew and approximately called 3,500 members of the Tennessee National Guard were called out to end the violence. During the disturbance, 4 blacks were shot, 1 fatally. Approximately, it was 9,000 people out there. Only 4 people were shot. 1 died. Approximately 150 fires were set and over 300 persons were arrested. Approximately 1% of the marchers engaged in looting and violence. It was just the young niggas. Just 1%. But at 1,000, there were 9 to 12,000 that was out there. However many they said was out there. Just 1%. Engaged in looting and violence, and many of those were people who were criminally inclined and who had been in previous trouble. The March 29, 1968 issue of the Memphis Commercial Appeal reported that many of the looters and window breakers were Black Power advocates and that several wore jackets of the invaders. However, other sources, including Lieutenant E.H. Arkin of the Memphis Police Department, indicated that many high school age students had put the word invaders on their jacket for effect and were not necessarily affiliated with the BOP movement. BOP, 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 give me top, top. The violence and disruption of the march was of great concern to Dr. King because of the possible effect it might have on the planned POCAM. Therefore, he vowed to return to Memphis and demonstrate that he had not lost his effectiveness in leading nonviolent marches. Dr. King, together with his SCLC staff, returned to Memphis on April 3rd, 1968. The boy loved Memphis. At 10:33. After a press conference at the airport, the group proceeded to the Lorraine Motel, arriving there approximately 11:20. At about 12:05, Dr. King left the Lorraine Motel for a meeting at the Centenary Methodist Church. Security and surveillance report of G.P. Tynes, Inspector, Memphis Police Department, dated July 7, 1968. Dr. King announced at this meeting that his purpose in returning to Memphis was to lead a mass march on April 8, 1968. However, on April 3, 1968, United States District Court Judge Bailey Brown issued a temporary restraining order against further marches in Memphis. Damn, a restraining order on marches? Dr. King returned to the Lorraine Motel at 2:25, and sometime that afternoon, federal marshals served him and his aides with restraining orders? What the fuck? Wow. A city can give you a restraining order? I have never heard such shit in my life. Them folk went to court and said, hey, he beating up the city. He can't come here. He is violent. And they gave it to him. This was racist times back then, so. But damn, I ain't never heard no shit like that. See what y'all was saying. Okay, I wonder what made him want to release these documents. Trump is for the people, man. Uncle Trump is for the people. And that's why he said release all this shit. Or as the woke people say, maybe it was a distraction. Cause he do got a lot of shit going on right now. He doing every day it's something that they see this, that, and the third is happening. Oh, an update on them firing the superintendent of Memphis. Apparently, some state lawmakers said they're preparing for the state to take over the schools, and that they're going to fire the entire board if they come in and take over. I did not know the state took over TSU, but that's funny. Tennessee State University is actually ran by the state. But yeah, that's the update. Served him and his aides with restraining order. At approximately 4 p.m., Dr. King and the SCLC staff met with the BOP group, at which time Charles Cabbage requested money to institute BOP plans to start a liberation school as a black co-op. In walks Umar Johnson. Dr. King agreed to use his influence to secure funds for BOP, and Reverend Andrew Young agreed to help write up a plan. It is believed these concessions were made to BOP in order to keep them in line and prevent them from following a violent pattern. On the night of April 3rd, 1968, King spoke to approximately 2,000 persons at the Mason Temple. He emphasized that the scheduled mass march must be held on April 8th to refocus attention on the 8-week-old sanitation worker strike. After the speech, Solomon Jones Jr., serving as Dr. King's chauffeur, drove him back to the Lorraine Motel. Dr. King told Jones to report back on Thursday morning, April 4th at 8:30 a.m. because he had to appear in court in connection with the restraining order. Shit. Imagine not even doing nothing. He ain't break down one and had a damn restraining order. According to Miss Georgia M. Davis of Louisville, Kentucky, she, Reverend A.D. Williams King, Dr. King's brother, and Miss Lucy Ward arrived in Memphis on April 4th, 1968. They had the hose with them from Florida and registered at the Lorraine Motel at approximately 1 a.m. If y'all wondering why the Lorraine Motel keeps popping up, because I think that was like the only black hotel at the time. But then, it had to be, because y'all heard that other one was Holiday Inns. That wasn't no that wasn't no black owned jump. But the Lorraine Motel was the only black owned motel in the city at the time. So that thing was popping. It was jumping. They were told that he was attending upon inquiring about Dr. King, they were told that he was attending a strategy meeting at a church. The three then went to the church, but Dr. King was not there. Returning to the motel, King's brother, Miss Davis, and Miss Ward conversed in a room 207 until they observed Dr. King with Reverend Ralph Abernathy and Bernard Lee getting out a taxi cab in a motel courtyard at about 4:30 a.m. He had a threesome. Dr. King was invited to room 207, where he visited with his brother, Miss Davis, and Miss Ward till about 5 a.m. He then went to room 306, where he and Reverend Abernathy were registered. About a half hour later, Dr. King went to room 201, where he visited with Miss Davis for approximately an hour. Hey man, y'all see what they set it up for? They said Dr. King was clapping cheeks. He was clapping cheeks. His brother was bringing the hose. It's early in the morning. He been out all night on Beale Street kicking it, drinking Call the Cabs and Hurricanes and shit. What you were doing in that room for about an hour, Mr. King, Dr. King? They telling. Imagining being watched so much they know all this shit. Where he visited with Miss Davis for approximately 1 hour. Afterwards, he returned to room 306 for a strategy meeting scheduled for 8. That nigga was up all night. Solomon Jones, Dr. King's chauffeur, returned to the Lorraine Motel at about 8:30 to take him to court. However, Reverend Andrew Young advised Jones that he was going to court instead of Dr. King. Therefore, Jones was requested to remain at the hotel. Dr. King remained at the motel the entire day because he was asleep, returning to room 201 at about 1:30 to visit Miss Davis. He was later joined in room 201 by his brother, Miss Ward, Abernathy, Lee Young, and attorney Chauncey Eskridge. The group conversed until about 5:45 when Dr. King announced they were going to dinner at the home of Reverend Billy Cowles. En route to room 306 to dress, Dr. King saw Solomon Jones Jr. in the motel courtyard and told him to start the car as they were preparing to go to dinner. There's a discrepancy and there's a star, so they put this note at the bottom of it. They updated the file. There's a discrepancy in the exact time Dr. King returned to room 306. Miss Davis places the time at 5:45 p.m. However, in an FBI interview, Abernathy stated that on April 4th, 1968, he and Dr. King did not leave the motel and spent most of the day in room 306. He further stated that he and Dr. King had been gone from their room for approximately 1 hour or less when they returned to the room at about 5:30 to get dressed for dinner at the home of Reverend Billy Cowles. I'm on page 31 out of 113. 32 now. At approximately 6 p.m., Dr. King and Reverend Abernathy started to leave room 306. Reverend Abernathy stopped for a moment and Dr. King walked out to the balcony just outside the door to the room. He saw Jones standing beside the car on the ground level and began a conversation about the weather. Jones advised Dr. King that he should put on a top coat as it was cool outside. During this conversation, Dr. King was facing west and Jones was facing east and looking up at Dr. King from the ground level. As Dr. King acknowledged Jones' concern about getting his top coat, Jones heard a sound which he thought was a firecracker, and Dr. King fell to the floor of the balcony in front of room 306. Jones immediately called for help, and a number of Dr. King's aides who were either in their rooms or standing in the courtyard rushed to his side. Some critics of the FBI investigation have speculated that Solomon Jones Jr. set Dr. King up for the assassination by unduly detaining him on the balcony. Nothing in the evidence reviewed by the task force leaves any credence to such speculation. Yeah, because Dr. King didn't have to say nothing about the weather and all of that. He told him, start the car, boy, and he could have went on about the business. Was Dr. King gonna go back in the room? He didn't have to. Somebody would have brought him his coat. All right. Next page. Let's see what we got. FBI intelligence and local police activities. FBI informants. Robert Jensen, the special agent in charge of the Memphis field office, and Joseph Hester, case agent for Merkin, have unequivocally assured the task force that there was no electronic surveillance of Dr. King in Memphis. No, they're saying it wasn't. It explained that Memphis was not in the mainstream of Dr. King's SCLC activities. However, FBI agents did observe the sanitation worker strikes activity for intelligence purposes in the Memphis Police Department, and confidential informants did supply information to the field offices. Our investigation disclosed that there were 5 paid confidential informants providing intelligence regarding the racial situation to the Memphis field office on a continuing basis. The intelligence coverage provided by these individuals related to the activities of the Nation of Islam, Black Students Association of MSU, probably Memphis State University, Students for a Democratic Society, BOP, BUF, Afro-American Brotherhood, Invaders and Sanitation Workers Strike. There is no evidence that the activities of these informants related directly to Dr. King. Moreover, there is no evidence that would suggest these informants were connected in any way with the assassination of Dr. King. MPD infiltration of the invaders. Hold on, y'all. I need a break. In addition to the paid FBI informants, an officer of the MPD infiltrated the invaders in an undercover operation. The officer who was later exposed and is no longer with the MPD, was interviewed by the task force. The undercover assignment began in February of 1968 for the specific purpose of infiltrating the invaders, who became active about the same time of the sanitation workers' strike. According to the officer, the MPD was primarily interested in the invaders, not Dr. King, because the MPD was concerned about what they might do. The police officer was, in fact, accepted as a member of the invaders and participated in their activities. On the evening of April 4th, when Dr. King was shot, the informant had been on a shopping trip with Reverend James Bevel and Reverend James Orange. The informant said he returned to the Lorraine Motel at approximately 5 p.m. and was standing in the motel courtyard at the time Dr. King was shot. He is positive that the shot that killed Dr. King came from the rear of the buildings, which front on South Main Street. Okay. From the time of Dr. King's MPD surveillance detail and removal of Detective Reddit from duty. From the time of Dr. King's return to Memphis on April 3rd and to the time of his assassination, he was under physical surveillance by the MPD. Upon learning of Dr. King's flight schedule, Inspector G.P. Tynes of the MPD Inspectional Bureau instructed two black plainclothes officers, Detective Edward B. Reddit and Patrolman Willie B. Richmond, to go to the airport to observe the arrival of Dr. King and keep him under continuous surveillance in order to see with whom he came in contact. According to Inspector Tynes, the surveillance was ordered because Dr. King was a controversial figure and had met with local black militants on his prior visit to Memphis. While at the airport, a Miss Thomas Matthews pointed her finger at Reddit and told him that she was going to get him. Report of G.P. Tynes. The removal of Reddit from duty was cited as one of the bases for House Select Committee to investigate the assassination of MLK. Oh, shit. In addition to the surveillance detail, Assistant Chief of Police W.P. Houston ordered a detail of 4 men commanded by Inspector Don H. Smith to go to the airport for the purpose of providing security for Dr. King. Well, if they had 4 police providing security, couldn't they have been the same ones to just tell what was going on instead of having... So that's 6 officers. For the purpose of providing security for Dr. King, while waiting for Dr. King to arrive, Miss Thomas Matthews advised Lieutenant George K. Davis that she had come to the airport to pick up Dr. King and no one had asked for police to be assigned to him. Inspector Smith also asked Reverend James Lawson where they were going when they left the airport, and he replied, "We have not fully made up our minds." Nevertheless, when Dr. King and his party left the airport, Inspector Smith and his men followed them to the Lorraine Motel, arriving there at approximately 11:20 a.m. with the assistance of Inspector J.S. Galligan and 2 other officers. Inspector Smith and his men secured the entrances to the motel. Dr. King and his party left the Lorraine Motel approximately 12:05 and were followed by security detail to the Centenary Methodist Church. Centenary keeps getting me. where a meeting was held. The detail secured the front and rear entrances of the church until approximately 2:15 when Dr. King and his group returned to the motel. The security detail then returned to the motel area and resumed their positions until they were ordered to headquarters by Chief McDonald. At approximately 5:05, Tynes stated in his report that he was not conferred with and had no idea why the security detail was moved from Dr. King after 5:05. Former Chief McDonald has no present recollection of the security detail. The security detail was not resumed on April 4th. As a separate activity from the security detail, Detective Reddit and Patrolman Richmond went to the airport and observed Dr. King's arrival. When Dr. King left the airport, they followed him to the Rain Motel and learned that he was registered in room 306. Reddit telephoned headquarters and informed Inspector Tynes where Dr. King was staying. At approximately 12:05, Reddit and Richmond followed Dr. King and his party to the Centenary Methodist Church, where a closed meeting of approximately 30 black ministers was scheduled. Reddit again called headquarters and advised his superiors of his location. Reddit was instructed to leave Richmond at the church and for him to return to the area of the Lorraine Motel for the purpose of finding a suitable place where close surveillance could be kept on the motel. Richmond remained at the Centenary Methodist Church until the meeting was over at approximately 2:15 p.m. Richmond then went to Claiborne Temple where he thought Dr. King would address the sanitation workers prior to a scheduled 3 p.m. march. However, Dr. King did not make an appearance there. Richmond telephoned headquarters at about 3:30 and was advised Dr. King had returned to the motel and that Reddit had set up a surveillance post at fire station number 2. The fire station is still there and it's active, located at South Main and Butler Streets. Richmond immediately left Claiborne Temple and joined Reddit at the fire station. The rear of the fire station number 2 overlooks the Lorraine Motel and provided an excellent vantage point where Reddit and Richmond could observe Dr. King and his associates as they entered and left the motel. On April 3rd, 1968, Reddit and Richmond remained at their observation post until about 6:35, at which time they were relieved by Lieutenant Akin and Lieutenant Papia of the, this shit is long. After leaving their observation post, Reddit and Richmond went to the Mason Temple where Dr. King was scheduled to address a mass meeting. I gotta blow my nose, y'all. Be right back. I hope I'm not getting sick. Okay, scheduled to address a mass meeting. Shortly after they arrived at the temple, Reddit was approached by Reverend Malcolm D. Blackburn and told that the word was that he was over at the fire station. That doesn't even make sense. Near the Lorraine Motel, spying with binoculars. Reverend Blackburn also advised Richmond the temple was the wrong place for him because the tension was too high. Fearing they would be exposed, Reddit and Richmond left the meeting at approximately 8:50. Reddit and Richmond resumed their surveillance of the Lorraine Motel from fire station number 2, April 4th, 10:30 a.m. At approximately 12:50 p.m., Reddit received a threatening telephone call from a female that he was doing the black people wrong. Where you receive a threatening telephone call to? The fire station? His house? The police station? Because they ain't had no cell phones then. Who stated he was doing the black people wrong and they were going to do him wrong. At approximately 4 p.m., Reddit was ordered by telephone to leave the fire station and report to headquarters, where he was advised that threats had been made on his life. Okay, so then they called into the headquarters. He was therefore ordered to move his family into a motel under assumed name by Frank Holloman. Reddit was taken home in a squad car, but he refused to move his family because of a sick relative. At about the time the squad car arrived in front of Reddit's residence, it was announced on the radio that Dr. King had been shot. After a couple days, Reddit did not hear any. That do sound like a conspiracy. He get threats on his life. They tell him to come back to the office. He pulling up home and where he just left. But yeah, that's crazy. But they wouldn't have been able to see dude on the roof with the rifle or anything. Now they may have been able to stop him on his getaway, but unless they was actually looking out for that, they wouldn't have been able to do nothing. After a couple days, Reddit did not hear any more about the threat on his life. In our efforts to trace the source of the threat, we have found that Philip R. Manuel, an investigator with the Senate Investigating Committee, oh goodness, was in Memphis on April 4th, 1968. While at the MPD, Manuel advised that based on a telephone call to his office in Washington, that the Senate committee staff had information from an informant in Mississippi that the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party had made plans to kill a Negro lieutenant in Memphis. Manuel left Memphis on a 5:50 p.m. flight to Washington, and the next day, April 5th, he telephoned MPD and advised them that the threat was on the life of a new Negro lieutenant in Knoxville rather than Memphis. Okay. Philip Manuel neither has a present recollection of providing the information regarding the threat to the MPD, nor does he have a memorandum of the event. However, he confirmed that he was in Memphis and visited the MPD at the time stated, and that his office did have a Mississippi source. Moreover, he said the event sounded familiar and he believed the MPD records were correct. Although Reddit was relieved from duty at the fire station number 2, Richmond remained there and continued to observe who entered and left the hotel. At approximately 6 p.m., Richmond saw Dr. King leave his room and walk to the handrail on the balcony. The Reverend Billy Kyles was standing off to Dr. King's right. An instant later, Richmond heard a loud sound similar to a shot and saw Dr. King fall back from the handrail and put his hand up to his head. At approximately 6 p.m., Richmond telephoned headquarters to report Dr. King had been shot. He was instructed to remain at the fire station. Richmond then yelled to members of MPD Tactical Squad, which had stopped at the station a few moments earlier, that he believed Dr. King had been shot. He then ran to the front of the fire station and looked north and south on South Main Street, but did not see anyone running or walking except the men in the Tactical Squad who left the fire station running in different directions. Shortly thereafter, Captain arrived at the fire station and instructed Richmond to go to headquarters and make a detailed report of what he had seen. As of April 3rd, 1968, Norvell E. Wallace and Floyd E. Newsom were the only black firemen assigned to fire station number 2 of the Memphis Fire Department. Wallace was working the night shift on April 3rd. Newsom was scheduled to report for the day shift on April 4th. Both of these individuals actively supported the sanitation workers' strike, attending their rallies and making financial contributions. In our interview of Wallace, he stated that about 10 or 10:30 on the night of April 3rd, his captain told him that a call had come in requesting that a man be dealt to fire station number 33. He was immediately detailed to number 3, although it was raining and he was preparing to go to bed. Wallace further stated that while fire station number 33 was understaffed as a whole, there was no shortage of personnel for the pump truck on which he worked. Otherwise, he does not know why he was detailed. The details of the black fireman from the fire station number 2 is the second reason cited as a basis for the house selection committee to investigate. Also, on the night of April 3rd, Fireman Newsom, in a wholly personal capacity, attended a rally at the Mason Temple where Dr. King made his last speech. When he returned home about 10:30, there was a message for him to call Lieutenant J. Smith at the fire department. When he called, Lieutenant J. Smith ordered him to report to fire station number 31 on the morning of April 4th rather than fire station number 2. Newsom claims that fire station number 31 was overstrength at the time and his detail made his company short. Moreover, he says he never has received a satisfactory explanation why he was detailed. However, he did say that Lieutenant Barnett at one time told him he was detailed at the request of the police. Interviews of past and present members of the Memphis Fire Department have failed to disclose the individual who initiated the order or the reason for detailing Wallace and Newsom. According to former Lieutenant Jack Smith, he received a telephone call between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. on April 3rd from either Captain James T. Beatty or former Assistant Chief Arthur J. Rivalto in the Personnel Department, specifically requesting for Newsom to be detailed. No reason was given for the detail. Smith said he immediately called Newsom, but Newsom was not home. Therefore, Smith left a message for Newsom to call the fire station. Newsom called about 10:30 p.m. and Smith advised him of the detail. Wallace's commanding officer, then Captain R.T. Johnson, likewise stated he received a telephone from someone in the personnel department requesting him to detail Wallace. However, Johnson has no present recollection of who the individual was that made the request. Neither Captain Bafty nor former Assistant Chief Rivalto has any recollection of the detail of Wallace and Newsom. Captain Beatty indicated that any district chief could have ordered the men moved. Also, former Assistant Chief Rivalto said the fire department shifted people around all the time when the company became understrength because of sickness. Similarly, the former chief of the MFB, Edward A. Hamilton, has no recollection of the details. He speculated that the men could be detailed to fill in to bring a company up to strength. Same old. We got nothing. The MFD strengths report firefighting personnel for shift A battalions and blah, blah, blah. Wallace Company number 2 at Fire Station number 2 was operating at minimum strength 5 men after he was detailed, whereas Company 33, to which he was detailed, operated at 1 over minimum strength 4 men. After the call, likewise, the strength report for Shift B, the battalions 1 and 2, dated April 4th, 1968, also attached to the Boatwright interview of October, what the hell that is. However, former Deputy Chief James O. Barnett stated the people on the security detail operating out of the fire station probably felt better without Wallace and Newsom around. On the other hand, Assistant Chief James Boatwright explained they were having a very tense situation at the time, that a number of threatening calls had been received, and the consensus of opinion was that Wallace and Newsom were detailed for their own protection, since they were the only black firemen assigned to that station. In this connection, MPD Patrolman Willie B. Richmond and former Detective Edward Reddit, who conducted the surveillance of Dr. King and his associates from the fire station, were recontacted and specifically asked whether they had requested Wallace and Newsom be detailed. Both Richmond and Reddit denied they made such a request or had knowledge of anyone else in the police department making such a request. Our investigation has not disclosed any evidence that the detail of Wallace and Newsom was any way connected with the assassination of Dr. King. However, the circumstances surrounding the details strongly suggest that both men were detailed because they support the sanitation workers and were considered to be a threat to the security of the surveillance of Dr. King, conducted from the fire station by Patrolman Richmond and Detective Reddit. That makes sense. They see these two niggas spying on Dr. King and they wondering what's going on. They call a friend, tell a friend, and they cover blown. Y'all still in here? We still cooking. Page 46 out of 113. How long we been on here? I gotta finally go to the other screen. An hour and 15 minutes. Right? These units were organized for the purpose of avoiding riots, which other cities such as Detroit has experienced. Documents obtained from the state's Attorney General office show that the evening of April 4th, 1968, at the time Dr. King was shot, there were 9 tactical units in service at various locations that follow: Thomas and North Parkway, Jackson and Watkins, North. Thomas and Parkway is North Memphis 2, Chelsea and Watkins, North. Main and Butler, downtown. I guess it would be, it may be touching Georgia and Orleans. It's definitely South Memphis. Trigg and Latham, South Memphis. Bellevue and Eiffel, South Memphis. Union and Bellevue, that's Midtown. Is right there on the cusp of South Memphis. 4th and Gayoso, downtown. In addition to tactical units, the documents obtained from the state's Attorney General show that there were 10 regular police cars with 3 to 4 men per car. Damn, they were riding deep back in the day in the general area of the Lorraine Motel. These cars were at the following location Dr. King was shot. I had GPS on them old air car. Main and Bill, 3rd and Poplar, 4th and Butler, Union in front, 3rd and Bells. 3rd and Bells is nowhere near. It's a nice little stretch. 2nd and Gayoso, Crump and Barton, that's a nice little stretch. Lamar and Bellevue, nice little stretch. Poplar and Cleveland, nice little stretch. Linden and East, and Linden's downtown. Records show that tax unit 10 and 18 were within a radius of 1 mile of the crime scene, block of Millbury Street. At the time of the shooting, and tax unit 6, 11, and 12 within a radius of 2 miles of the scene. Tac Unit 7, 14, 15, and 16 were located outside the boundaries of the map are not shown. Cars number 224, 230, 232, 245, and 247 within a radius of 1 mile of the scene, and car numbers 228 and 369 within a radius of 2 miles. However, cars number 236, 365, and 367 were outside the boundaries of the map. Particular emphasis is given to TAC Unit 10 and the activity of its men, as this unit was located at Fire Station number 2 at the time of the shooting on the afternoon of April 4th, 1968. TAC Unit 10, consisting of 3 cars and 12 men, stopped at the fire station for a rest break at approximately 5:50 p.m. The unit was commanded by Lieutenant Judson Chumley of the Shelby County Sheriff's Department, who stops at the fire station for break. The upper members of the unit included Deputies DeFore, W.J. Berry, Dolahite, Baker, Maley of the Sheriff's Department, Patrolman Carolyn Dunn, William Gross, Morris, Wright, Burnett, Douglas, and Torrance Landers of the MPD. Interviews of the above named men indicate that when the unit arrived at the fire station, the cars were parked on the north side of the fire station entrance, with the lead car actually obstructing the sidewalk. The second car was parked directly behind the lead car, and the third car was double parked alongside these cars. While Patrolman Douglas remained with the lead car to monitor the radio, all the other men went into the fire station to take a break. When the shot was fired that killed Dr. King, these men were at various locations in the fire station drinking coffee, making telephone calls, etc. Patrolman Richmond, who was manning the surveillance post in the rear of the station, yelled throughout the station that Dr. King had been shot. The members of the tech unit, some of whom had heard the shot, all ran out the north side of the fire station, then east towards the rear of the fire station of the Lorraine Motel. Patrolman Douglas, who had remained in the lead car to monitor the radio, heard the shot when it was fired. He immediately got out of the car and ran towards the rear of the fire station with the other men. After Patrolman Douglas realized what happened, he returned to the lead car along with Patrolman Wright and radioed the dispatcher Dr. King had been shot. Douglas and Wright then drove the lead car south on South Main to East on Butler to Mulberry, and north on Mulberry to the entrance of the Lorraine Motel. Douglas and Wright later drove the car, accompanied by one or two other unidentified officers, north on Mulberry to Hulling, west on Hulling to South Main, and south on South Main to the front of the buildings located just north of the fire station. And there's a star. There are conflicts in the statements of Douglas, Wright, and Gormley. Douglas stated that Gormley and other unidentified officers got in the car with him at the fire station and they drove to the Lorraine Motel. According to Wright's version, he and Douglas left the fire station together and picked up one or two other unidentified officers at the Lorraine Motel. On the other hand, Gorley claims he turned around at the concrete wall at the rear of the fire station and ran to the front of the station and then north on South Main. The other man in the TAC unit continued to the rear of the fire station to a concrete retaining wall abutting Mulberry Street. DeFord, Dolehite, Morris, Baker, Landers, Marley, and Dunn climbed down the concrete wall and ran across Mulberry Street to the Lorraine Motel. DeFord and Morris ran up the stairs to the balcony where Dr. King's body lay. The people there said the shot had come from a red brick building north of the fire station on South Main. While DeFord ran with Dr. King's body until the ambulance came, Morris ran north on Mulberry to Hulling and west on Hulling to the north side of the buildings facing South Main. Another officer, probably Malley or Dunn, was already at that point, and Morris stopped there to assist him with securing their area. Baker ran to the motel balcony where DeFord was standing outside beside King's body. He then ran back to Mulberry Street and ran north for a distance to an alley. Baker ran into the alley looking for anything suspicious. He noticed other members of the TAC unit were securing a building, probably the building with its north end on Hulling. Therefore, Baker went to the corner of Mulberry and East Butler and took up a position there. After Landers learned the direction the shot came from, he found a 55-gallon drum and climbed back up the concrete retaining wall on Mulberry Street into the lot on which the building where the shot was fired is located. Landers observed that the bathroom window was partially open and he saw an elderly white male come up to the window and look out. He ordered him to get back from the window. Landers also saw an elderly white female looking out a window directly south on the bathroom window. He ordered her to get away from the window. Landers also checked the bushes on the lot for evidence and checked the entire area for footprints. After other officers arrived, Landers and another MPD officer climbed onto the roof of a one-story building which backs up to Mulberry Street. This building runs along the north side of the building whence the shot was fired. Finding nothing on the roof, they came down and started up an alley leading to a basement. About 10 feet up the alley, they found two fresh footprints in the mud. Landers guarded these footprints until homicide detectives arrived on the scene. Subsequently, a plaster case was made of each footprint. However, the footprints were never positively identified by either the MPD or FBI. Upon learning where the shot was fired from, Dolehite and Malley ran out of the motel courtyard, turned north on Mulberry to Hulling, and west on Hulling towards South Main. Malley stopped in the center of the block and began guarding the north end of the building. However, Dolehite continued running with gun drawn to South Main and turned south on South Main. Dolehite noticed a number of patrons in Jim's Grill at 418 South Main. He ran into the cafe and ordered everyone to remain seated and not to leave. Dolehite then stopped momentarily at Knipes Amusement Company, located at 424 South Main, where he observed a green bridge spread lying in the doorway, partially covering a blue suitcase and a box containing a rifle. As he continued down South Main a short distance near a fenced-in parking area, Dolahite observed Lieutenant Gormley and another officer coming north on South Main. Dolahite turned around at that point and walked back to Knipes' store ahead of Lieutenant Gormley and then crossed the street for the purpose of securing the front of the building. After he took up his position, Douglas and Wright drove in the lead car. Other officers who did not climb down the retaining wall at the rear of the fire station and run to the motel are Gormley, Gross, and Berry. After running to the retaining wall and observing the people pointing to the building on South Main, Berry came back to the fire station entrance, jumped into a cruiser, and drove north on South Main to the first intersection of Hulling, where he stopped the car in the street and secured that area. Gormley and Gross also returned to the front of the fire station after first running into the retaining wall. They both turned north on South Main and ran towards Hulling. Gormley stopped at Knipes Amusement Co., where he observed what appeared to be a blanket partially covering a blue suitcase and a Browning rifle box with about a foot of the barrel of a rifle exposed. The apparent discrepancies in the statements of Gormley and Dolahite can be accounted for only by the mass confusion which must have occurred immediately after the shooting. It appears that Dolahite first observed the bundle while running south on South Main with his gun drawn. But he continued past Knipes Amusement Company, and after he saw Gormley and other officer coming north, he turned around and took up position in the opposite side of the street from Knipes. Guy Knipes, the owner of Knipes Amusement Co., informed Gormley that a white male had just dropped the bundle in front of his door a minute or two earlier and run south on South Main. Gormley radioed this information to headquarters and stood guard over the articles. Shortly thereafter, Knipes told Gormley there was a white Mustang automobile had left the area at a high rate of speed after the bundle was dropped. Gormley also radioed this information to headquarters. Who texted me MCS? All right. Sorry, I was reading and breathing and things. According to the transcript of the MPD radio tapes, MPD James Earl Jones race supplements. TAC Unit 10 advised the dispatcher Dr. King had been shot at the Lorraine Motel at 6:03. By 6:06 p.m., the dispatch had ordered a circle formed around Lorraine Motel and the buildings west of the motel on South Main. Moreover, patrol cars and other TAC units had begun to arrive on the scene. At 6:07 p.m., TAC Unit 10 advised the dispatcher that the weapon was in front of 424 South Main and that the subject ran south on South Main at 6:08 p.m. The subject was described as a well-dressed young man, white male. At 6:10 p.m., the dispatcher relayed information from TAC Unit 10 that the subject had left the area in a late model white Mustang. The man in the TAC unit and patrol cars kept the area sealed off, directed traffic, and checked out suspicious individuals while detectives from the homicide squad investigated the scene. Inspector Nevlin E. Zachary of the MPD Homicide Squad arrived at the Lorraine Motel at approximately 6:15, and by 6:30, he had taken custody of the bundle of articles found in the doorway of Knipes Amusement. Zachary turned the bundle, except for a t-shirt and pair of shorts, over to the FBI at about 9:30 or 10 p.m. The t-shirt and shorts were also turned over to the FBI after the laundry marks were checked with local laundries. FBI investigation. The murder. Dun dun dun. Hey y'all, I really feel like I need a I need a damn I need a 3 minute break. I'm gonna play a song. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Well, 3 minutes and 16 seconds. My feet up, my feet up, my feet
The
up.
trap, I'm doing me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me.
My feet up,
I'm doing me.
my feet up.
Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Keep my distance from these suckers, I can't let them ruin me. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. 13 jumped off the porch with drugs, is influence me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. Way to work naked like a skinny dipping, no crosses needed for this crucifixion. Fold out, couple screws missing. Paranoid believing, superstition. No paper in the river fishing. Need a stove, what a needed kitchen. Without a diamond, still shine glisten. Sell around so everybody itching. Falling strong, trying to go a mission. Mathematics, simple addition. Bad luck like a bad kid. One of the few still around street, no matter what. Never act different, no GPS. But they back tripping. Muddy cup, guess I'm back sipping. Like Jason Kidd, I guess I'm back a hey, yo, keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Keep my distance from these suckers, I can't let them ruin me. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. 13 jumped off the porch with drugs, is influence. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me.
I was riding in the tourist dreaming of a rape. Got it down a bun, then another K. Go by the escape, pop out a K. Back cabin with a dude, shot a Timberlake. Real reach out a rally, it's a murder 8. Raw cold, don't rock step with a 8. I'm a star cloud 9, I'm an Alex Payne. Roll run the show, money, get it straight state. Black brother finna kill, Adam on the way. Riding 36, 9, present OJ. I was counting money way back in 08. 7 8 when I boy, money boy trade. HD lifestyle, I'm in 4K. 4 clips, 2 rock, chrome, AK. Then legal, I carry 34 state. Sick and tired, nigga, got a
hey, yo, keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Keep my distance from these suckers, I can't let them ruin me. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. 13 jumped off the porch with drugs, is influence. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Keep my distance from these suckers, I can't let them ruin me. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me. 13 jumped off the porch with drugs, is influence. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Keep back with my feet up in the trap, I'm doing me. Hey, yo, keep back with my feet up, keep back with my feet up. Drug dealer, pimps and hustlers, they the ones influence me.
We is back. We back. I'm gonna have to retitle this because apparently this first document is about the damn murder investigation list. Because this is part 1 of part 2. This is all about the murder investigation. They took us through a history lesson of BOP and SCLC. I guess that's why Big Boogie song Bop hit different, because it was an actual organization that was in Memphis. Okay, then he probably knew that or did not. Yours truly. You don't know anything about my activities, ma'am. It's cool to see that in person. The Lorraine Motel. Never actually been. If I did, I don't remember. Never actually been in the Civil Rights Museum. Okay. The Department of Justice response and FBI performance. On page 56. Hold on, let me look at the time. I don't think we're doing bad. 56 pages in an hour and a half, and then I had played like 15 minutes worth of music with that last little break. I don't think that's bad. I think we cooking. Y'all think I can read all 113 pages? Somebody said, hold on. See, this motherfuckers don't. This nigga said, where the video at? Below you. Sorry, y'all. I'm responding back to these, niggers on my posts. Okay. Wait. At approximately 6 p.m. on April 4th, 1968, MLK was we gotta go through this again. Was standing on the balcony outside his room at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Moments later, King was shot by a high-powered rifle and then rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital. At 7:05, he was pronounced dead. But according to some people, it was his doctor that killed him and not the bullet. The cause of death was I don't know why the doctor would have to actually kill him, smother him, or do whatever when he just could have took his time and going in there and try to render aid to him. No need to do anything else but be slow with rendering aid. At 7:05 p.m., he was pronounced dead. The cause of death was a bullet wound which tore the major neck blood vessels and severed the spinal cord at the root of the neck. So he was going to be paralyzed if he survived. The top priority investigation ordered. The Memphis Police Department was immediately aware of the Dr. King assault field office headed by Special Agent, I'm guessing, SAC Robert G. Jensen. SAC Jensen telephonically relayed the information to Washington, where Director Hoover and Attorney General Clark were informed. The Memphis field office was directed on the evening of April 4th, 1968 to immediately conduct a full investigation of the matter as a possible violation of 18 U.S.C., the Civil Rights Conspiracy Statute. This directive soon became national in scope, with SACs in all FBI field offices being ordered by Teletype on April 7, 1968 to participate and conduct a top priority investigation under their personal supervision. This meant all leads were to be afforded immediately, thorough and imaginative attention, and all possibilities from such leads exhausted. Also, 24 hours was set as the period after receipt of a lead within which the investigation and reporting must be completed. All SACs were to hear personal responsibility for any failure to handle the investigation. The breadth of this top priority investigation is repeatedly evidenced in the Merkin files. All informant sources, racial, security, and criminal, were immediately alerted and contacted for information. The KKK and other hate groups, as well as individuals known to have violent proclivities, were checked. The files were checked for prior threats against MLK. Name checks were continuously being made on selective service records, city and telephone directories, driver's license bureaus, motor vehicle divisions, financial institutions, credit records, criminal and civil records, marriage licenses, public utility rolls, unions, common courier passenger lists, and more. Key information was developed early at Bessie Brewer's rooming house, whence the shot was fired. Bessie Brewer, Charles A. Stevens, and William C. Anschutz were interviewed, and physical description of a suspect was obtained. Bessie Brewer, resident manager of the rooming house, explained that a John Willard registered with her on April 4th between 3 p.m. and 3:30. He was first directed to room 8, but rejected it because it had a stove and refrigerator. Instead, he asked for a sleeping room only and accepted room 5B in the rear of the hostelry. This room provided a window with the view of Dr. King's room at the Lorraine Motel. Miss Brewer described this new tenant as a white male, approximately 35 years of age, 5'11" to 6 feet tall, weighing 180 pounds, with a medium build and presenting a neat, clean appearance. Stevens, who was in his room on the afternoon of April 4th, remembers hearing footsteps between room 5B and the bathroom. He also remembers the bathroom being occupied for considerable periods of time, 20 to 30 minutes, without water running or the toilet being flushed, except for the last visit. This last visit ended when he heard what he is certain was a gunshot. Interrupted by the shot, Stevens opened his door to the hallway to see a man running down the hallway carrying a large wrapped bundle. As this man ran down the hall in the direction of Anschutz, Stephen recalls believing that he had seen this person earlier that afternoon with Miss Brewer. Stevens described him as a white male of average build in his 30s, 5'10" to 5'11" inches tall, weighing 165 pounds, wearing a dark suit, presenting a neat and clean appearance. Like Stevens, Anschutz was a resident of the rooming house and in his room at the time of the shooting. Also like Stevens, Anschutz occupied a room adjacent to John Willard. He recalls watching television in his room that afternoon when he heard a gunshot. Immediately he went to the door, and as he opened it, saw a man running towards him. This man covered his face as he ran and carried a blanket wrapped bundle. Anschutz addressed the man saying, "I thought I heard a shot." The man responded, "Yeah, it was a shot." Anschutz described the man as 6 feet tall with a slim build and in his 30s. The Knipe Amusement Company is located at 424 South Main and is just a short distance from Bessie Brewer's rooming house at 422 South Main. In the recessed entrance to Knipe Company, a blanket wrapped bundle, presumably the bundle Stevens and Anschutz saw containing value pieces of physical evidence, was recovered shortly after the shooting. The store owner, Guy Knipe, and 2 customers, Burnell Finley, Julius Graham, were in the store at the time of the assassination. Each was interviewed by the FBI and described hearing a thud, which drew their attention as they looked to see what happened. They observed the blanket wrapped bundle. In the entrance at the same time, they saw a man dressed in a dark suit walking rapidly south on the sidewalk away from the bundle. A few moments later, they said a white compact automobile, possibly a Mustang, proceeded north on South Main at a high rate of speed. The male was described as white, approximately 30 years of age, with a medium build, 5'10", 6 feet tall, weighing 160 to 180 pounds. The bundle, after being discovered at Knipe's doorway by a member of Memphis Police Department Tactical Squad, first came into the custody of Inspector Zachary of Memphis Police Department Homicide Bureau. Later in the evening, April 4th, 1968, between 9 p.m., Inspector Zachary delivered the handle to Zach Johnson, who immediately had it flown by agent courier to Washington for laboratory examination. The bundle contained a Model 760 Remington Game Master rifle, Springfield caliber, and a blue zipper bag. The bag contained various toilet articles along with a pair of men's underwear with laundry tags, a pair of binoculars, 2 cans of beer, and a paper bag bearing an advertisement for York Arms Company, Memphis, Tennessee, with the York Arms Company cash sales receipt dated April 4th, 1968. Information and physical evidence track. The investigation continued with emphasis on tracing all physical evidence and information received. To this, and a search of all Memphis area hotels and motels was initiated for the source of the blanket and bar of soap found in the blue zipper bag. Also, registrations at area ends were examined for the unknown suspect who fled the rooming house and who might be driving a white compact automobile. At the same time, the rifle, scope, binoculars, can of beer, laundry tags, and other items were tracked. The rifle and scope were quickly traced to the Aero Marine Supply Company in Birmingham, Alabama. The rifle was sold to a Harvey Lohmeyer. The scope, along with the second rifle, was purchased March 29, 1968, but Lohmeyer exchanged this rifle the following day for the one recovered at the Knipe Amusement Company. According to the Aero Marine salesman, Lohmeyer explained that he talked with his brother and was advised a more powerful rifle was necessary for deer hunting in Wisconsin. However, a laboratory examination of this return rifle revealed that it was clogged with cosmoline, a heavy grease firearm preservative, and could not be loaded and ready to fire. The salesman also provided a physical description of Lohmeyer, which matched those previously obtained. The paper bag and sales receipt from York Arms Company led agents to the Memphis store where the binoculars were purchased. The New York Arms salesman explained that he sold a pair of binoculars at approximately 4 p.m. to a white male matching the description previously obtained. By checking the manufacturer's can codes and distribution records, the two beer cans were traced to a South Haven minnow shop, South Haven, Mississippi. The center of the investigation shifted from Memphis to Birmingham on April 9th, when the search of Memphis ends focused on the Rebel Motel and the April 3 registration record of Eric Starvo Gott. It's already known the rifle and scope were purchased in Birmingham, and the Galt registration also pointed to Birmingham. The registration record aroused interest because Galt registered for the night of April 3rd only, listed a Birmingham address, and drove a Mustang with Alabama license plates. Ooh. The possibility of a link between Eric Starvo Galt and the unknown subject was pursued in Alabama by the Birmingham and Mobile offices. In their pursuit, they learned that the August 29, 1967 Galt purchased a 1966 white Mustang automobile. The Bureau agents also learned that the state of Alabama issued a motor vehicle operator's license in October 1967 to Eric Starvo Galt, 2608 Highland Avenue, Birmingham, Alabama. The physical description obtained from this license matched those previously received. White male, July 20th, 1931, 5'11", tall, 175 pounds, with blue eyes and brown hair. When the investigation moved to Galt's Birmingham address, it was learned that Galt lived there in late August until early October 1967. Because of the length of this contact, emphasis was placed on developing information on Galt's background. Significantly, it was learned during his Birmingham sojourn, Galt expressed an enthusiastic interest in dancing and attended dancing schools there. What the fuck does him doing dance school have to do with anything? Soon after the Birmingham connection was uncovered, Los Angeles became a focal point of the investigation. The significance of Los Angeles became apparent April 11th with the knowledge of 4 facts. 1. When on April 11, 1968, the Bureau located Galt's abandoned Mustang in Atlanta, a search of it indicated Galt had serviced twice in the Los Angeles area. 2. Also incident to the search of the Mustang, a fragment of cardboard torn from a Kleenex box was found. On it were the names of Los Angeles addresses of Anita Katzwinkle and Ginger Nance. 3 laundry markings from the recovered underwear were tracked to Home Service Laundry and Dry Cleaning, Hollywood, California. The following day, agents learned that the name Eric Starvo Galt appeared in the laundry's records. Lastly, a pair of pliers recovered from the blue zipper bag were traced to the Rampage hardware store, which is within 5 blocks of home service, laundry, and dry cleaning. Since it was known, how the fuck they trace some pliers back to California? Damn. Since it was known that while in Birmingham, Galt pursued an interest in dancing, all dance schools in Los Angeles were checked. Galt's name appeared in the record of the National Dance Studio, Los Angeles. Eventually, the dance studio contact proved to be most important because it was through an interview with the dance studio owner that a photograph of Eric Starvo Galt was finally obtained. They had they had driver's license and they ain't had no picture of them. The owner keyed the agents to an interest. Galt has expressed in attending a bartending school, checking the area. The International School of Bartender was located and it provided Galt's graduation photo. For the first time, agents were able to see and distribute a photo of their subject to be sure of maximum dissemination. The photo was circulated among the news media. While in Los Angeles, Galt first lived at Serrano Apartments and later at the San Francisco Hotel. Persons contracted to these locations called him a loner and described him as a person who kept to himself. A departure from this characterization, however, was reported by Charles Stein, who at no expense to himself rode with Galt in the Mustang from Los Angeles to New Orleans and returned. Stein explained that he and his sister Rita Stein, Stein, met with Galt through their cousin Marie Martin, who was working as a barmaid at the Sultan Bar, located in the St. Francis Hotel. Galt had mentioned to Martin that he was planning to drive to New Orleans, and she asked if he would be willing to give her cousin a ride there in order to pick up her children. He agreed, but it was Charles and not Rita who went along with Galt. Notwithstanding the information Stein provided, the investigation moved no closer to locating Galt. New Orleans was scoured for clues. And although Galt's hotel and room were located, the effort was fruitless. Stein also stated Galt made several telephone calls from payphones along the way, but an exhaustive search of countless telephone records, numbers, and subscribers produced nothing. Lastly, Stein explained that Galt conditioned the ride to New Orleans on Charles Stein, Rita Stein, and Marie Martin joining George Wallace's American Independent Party. Each joined, but again, the ensuing investigation of this lead learned nothing. On April 11, 1968, a citizen call came through to the Atlanta Police Department reporting the missing white Mustang. According to this call and another person, both interviewed by the FBI, an abandoned Mustang was parked shortly before 9 a.m. April 5th by a lone man matching Galt's description. The discovery of Galt's Mustang immediately caused agents to seek out any additional contacts by Galt in Atlanta. Because Galt was believed to have used low-cost rooming houses, all such establishments were contacted for any sign of him. Success was found at Jimmy Dalton Gardner's rooming house, where Galt registered March 24, 1968. Although Galt was nowhere to be found, he had left evidence behind. Found in his room were a booklet, Your Opportunities in Locksmithing, and a collection of maps. One of these maps was of the city of Atlanta with the residence of Martin Luther King and the headquarters of SCLC circled. Other evidence in Galt's presence in Atlanta was received. So he left evidence in March, and in April, it was still in the rooming house. That rooming house did not clean up at all. Other evidence of Galt's presence in Atlanta was received from the Piedmont Laundry, where records showed he picked up laundry April 5th. He got back to Atlanta quick. Galt identified as James Earl Ray. Knowing Galt returned to Atlanta after the assassination, all conceived modes of transportation in and around of Atlanta were checked. However, Galt's trail was cold and there was no evidence as to where he fled from Atlanta. The Bureau became worried because with each passing hour, Galt's chances of avoiding capture became better and better. Therefore, the investigative emphasis shifted from following Gault's trail to identifying Gault. In an effort to accomplish this, the Bureau initiated comparative search of 3 identical latent fingerprints believed to be Gault's. 1 fingerprint was recovered from the rifle, a second from the binoculars, and a third from the map of Atlanta found in Gault's room. Against fingerprints of white male fugitives, to be sure the limitation to fugitives was purely speculative. However, the speculation paid off when April 19, 1968, James Earl Ray's fingerprint card compared identically. With the discovery that Elvick Stavo Gott was James Earl Ray, the investigation was redirected to a search of Ray's whereabouts since the time of his April 23, 1967 escape from Missouri State Prison. Through the months of April and May, the Ray Gott steps were traced. Eventually, the Bureau was able to account for Ray's whereabouts almost continuously since his escape. Nevertheless, his trail remained cold beyond Atlanta on April 5th, 1968. In connection with their search, Ray's family was identified, located, physically surveilled, and periodically interviewed for information. Also, prison inmates and associates were queried, as well as his military record perused, but no clues developed. Ray's family said they knew nothing, they had not heard from nor been in contact with James, and did not know of his whereabouts. Prison inmates and associates told tales of bounties offered for the death of Dr. King, but exhaustive investigations could not substantiate their claims. Frustrated, the director prepared a memorandum for Attorney General dated May 13, 1968, in which he explains that extensive investigation has not resulted in any new developments beyond Atlanta, April 5th. Therefore, the director requested authorization for telephone and microphone surveillance on Ray family members. The request, however, was never acted upon. Passport search. From an interview with the former cellmate of Ray's at Missouri State Prison, it was learned that Ray appreciated the ease with which a person living in Canada could obtain a false passport, though it is not clear that the cellmate's comments precipitated a search of Canadian passports issued since Ray's April 23, 1967 escape. It is known that on the request of the FBI legat in Canada, such a search was conducted by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. A passport search was also conducted in Mexico and the United States, though the search went through a staggering number of applications and was based on the comparisons of Ray's photographs to those submitted with an application. It proved to be the necessary break in picking up Ray's trail. At 9:30 p.m. on June 1st, the illegal attaché, Ottawa, Canada, called the Bureau to advise that after reviewing some 175,000 applications, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police located a passport issued April 24, 1968, under the name Raymond George Snyde, which contained a photograph very definitely similar to Ray. The passport was filed by the Kennedy Travel Agency in Toronto, Canada. Incident to their investigation, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police contacted the travel agency and obtained a hand-printed note from Snyde concerning his application. The note, together with the passport photo and a latent palm print, were forwarded to the Bureau for laboratory examination, which concluded that Ray and Snyde were the same person. Ray apprehended. The Kennedy Travel Agency also provided information that Snyde purchased a round-trip air ticket from Toronto to London, departing May 6 and returning May 21st, 1968. But New Scotland Yard determined that Snyde turned in the return portion of the fare and received a May 7, 1968 ticket to Lisbon, Portugal, plus a $14.60 voucher. Immigration authorities in Lisbon were immediately contacted. It was learned that Ray had entered Lisbon May 7th, but had exited for London May 17th. Stops were issued by New Scotland Yard for Snyde. At 11:15 a.m. June 8, 1968, Ray was apprehended by officers of New Scotland Yard while he was passing through the British immigration offices in the London airport. At the time, he was planning a flight to Brussels, Belgium. Hold on, let me get some drink. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. We is at 70 pages out of 113. 71. I think I can finish it. Literally, scores of alleged conspiracy were communicated to the Bureau. From the date of the assassination in April 68, even up to this date, the FBI has been approached by numerous persons with stories which purport to identify a conspiracy to kill King. Those stories involve the widest range of perpetrators and participants as well as motives. To the extent that these leads were pursued, the Bureau was put in the rather difficult position of conducting an investigation which ranged far beyond the concrete evidence that had already been attained. When the leads were in fact bogus ones, the FBI was attempting to prove a negative in each reported case with the controversial figures such as Dr. King. The possibilities of conspiracy were numerous. Consequently, the Bureau's credibility would necessarily be strained given his past relationship with the civil rights leader, unless the story was disproved. Yet the Bureau attempted to cover each lead. As previously stated, each SAC was held personally responsible for an expedited and thorough review. Based on our review of the files, the task force is satisfied that the FBI did a credible and thorough job in attempting to identify any possible conspiracy or persons who could have been involved in the murder. In each of the allegations received, the Bureau immediately interviewed the person who was the source of the allegation where this was possible, i.e., where the source was not anonymous. In situations where the complaint was not an obvious hoax, the Bureau then attempted immediately to identify the alleged participants and interview them. Where there was not a satisfactory explanation to dispel the allegation concerning such matters as whereabouts or associations, the Bureau would then check further. This does not mean that every allegation was pursued to the ultimate degree. Judgment based on experience dictated many of the decisions. The judgments were also tempered by a critical factor. Within 15 days of the murder, the FBI was convinced that Galt and Ray were the same person. That this individual purchased the rifle, rented the room across from the Lorraine Motel, and fired the shot that killed Dr. King. While there were many other people who were antagonistic towards Dr. King and many who had apparently discussed killing him, any successful conspiracy would have to have involved Ray based on the evidence at hand. In all the years following the assassination, the investigation has failed to reveal any connection between any alleged conspirators and James Earl Ray, including those alleged by Ray himself. Indeed, the overwhelming evidence indicates that Ray was almost totally alone during the year after he escaped from Missouri State Prison. We have not addressed here the Bureau's handling of particular conspiracy leads because of the large number of allegations involved. Bureau files can be checked for each reported lead and the resulting investigation on the lead traced to its conclusion. The story of James Earl Ray. This is really detailed. On Saturday, the 23rd of April, 1967, after he had served 7 years of a 20-year sentence for armed robbery in the Missouri State Penitentiary at Jefferson City, James Earl Ray escaped. When a truck appeared at the prison bakery where Ray worked, a bread box was carried into the truck to be delivered to a nearby prison farm. Ray had concealed himself inside the bread box and later fled from the prison truck at a stop prior to its reaching the Wren's prison farm. Ray allegedly headed first towards Kansas City. On the third day, he burglarized a trailer sitting by the Missouri River, taking a blanket and food. For the next 3 nights, he made his way along the railroad in the direction of Kansas City. As a star, Ray has provided varying accounts of his escape from prison and of his subsequent activities prior to his apprehension. The task force's most credible view of his statements has been used here. These admissions of Ray are found in He Slew the Dreamer, Huey William Bradford, Delacorte Press, New York, 1968. All other citations herein are for serials in the Bureau's Merkin file. The task force has obtained Xerox copies of Ray's correspondence with Mr. Huey, which reflect the admissions cited by Huey. To a city large enough so he would not be noticed, and took a train to St. Louis. Kansas City, to a city large enough so he would not be noticed, and took a train to St. Louis. He then took a taxi cab to East St. Louis, called a friend who drove him to Edwardsville, whence he caught a bus for Chicago. On May 3rd, Ray secured work for the next 8 weeks as the dishwasher and cook's helper at the Indian Trail restaurant in Winnetka, Illinois. I don't fucking know. And resided at 2731 North Sheffield in Chicago under the name John L. Raines. He purchased a 1959 Chrysler automobile from a private owner on June 5th for $200. June 9th, he failed the driver's test but passed the test on June 12th. Ray moved from his Sheffield address to Lunch Street, where he paid 1 week's rent. Ray was issued a driver's permit in the name of John L. Raines for the state of Illinois. During the week of June 19th, Ray left his job and requested his final check be forwarded to the Lunch Street address, which it was. Thereafter, Ray purchased the 1962 plane. What the fuck? Why do we care about this shit? Back in 1962, I don't give a fuck. Via Detroit and Windsor. They went to Montreal, Canada via Indianapolis, Detroit, and Windsor. His prime objective was allegedly to secure a Canadian passport. As John L. Raines, he registered for an overnight stay at the Beauregard Motel in Dorian, just west of Montreal. Next, Ray first used the alias Eric S. Galt when he signed a 6-month lease for an apartment in the Harkey Apartments, 2589 Notre Dame East in Montreal. Ray then allegedly held up a food store stealing $1,700. The following day, he spent $300 for new clothes at Tip Top Tailors, had his haircut and a manicure at Queen Elizabeth Hotel. He also ordered on July 21st a $75 tailor-made suit at the English and Scotch Woolen Company. A month and a half later, by a letter from Birmingham dated September 6, 1967, this tailoring company was instructed by Ray to send his finished garment to him at his then Birmingham address. 3 days later, Ray ordered 3 sex books from Futura Books, Inc. in Inglewood, California. And on July 28th, he enrolled in a correspondence course at Locksmith Institute, Little Falls, New Jersey. Both matters were paid by Canadian money orders. How the fuck did he order some sex books from California? There's a lot of damn traveling. Whatever. Did he have the internet back then? Ray vacation beginning July 30th at the Grey Rock Sand and Lake Quemet in the Laurentian Mountains, seeking, according to Ray, contact with a respectable woman to vouch for him on a passport application. He was picked up by a female Canadian government employee and her girlfriend and spent the next few days with them before leaving on August 7th. The two women followed, stayed overnight with Ray in Montreal, then returned to their residences in Ottawa. On August 9th, he purchased a money order, a formula for making glass for a two-way mirror. Then on August 19th, Ray visited the government employee in Ottawa but did not importune her to assist him on his passport application. During the approximately 2.5 months of Ray's stay in Canada, he relates meeting an underworld character named Raoul. After negotiations, Ray stated to Arthur Hugh that he engaged in smuggling operations with Raoul, then proceeded to Birmingham to meet Raoul at the latter's direction. Meanwhile, he stayed at the Town and Country Motel, Ottawa from August 18th. What the fuck? I don't care about any of this. What are we doing here? I don't see how any of this is connected. Ray is Eric Starbo, applied for and was issued Alabama's driver's license number. The signature matches the other handwritings of the same name. At some point during his stay in Birmingham, Ray purchased a .38 revolver, which was found on his person on his arrest in Heathrow Airport, London, England. On September 12th, Ray enrolled for 5 weekly dance classes at the Continental Dance Club Studios. The Modern Photographic Book Publishing Co., Inc. of the New York City received a coupon order from Eric S. Gott for a photo book and a letter by Ray S. Gott written September 26, asking that the book not be sent as he was moving and would be giving the change address later. The handwriting was identical with Ray's. Ray purchased a bank draft from Exchange Security Bank, 5 Points, South Branch, Birmingham, payable to Superior Buck Film Co. of Chicago, and this accompanied an order on that company for a Kodak Super 8 movie camera, projector, a splicer, and 20-foot remote control cable. Price $337. Then Ray typed a note to the film company 7 days later in which he acknowledged receipt of the items he had ordered but returned the movie camera as the wrong one. He stated he was leaving for Mexico on October 7th and would send a new address to which the correct movie camera could be forwarded. September 30th, Ray paid only for his room. Ray S. Gott was issued Alabama license tags. He left Birmingham for Mexico October 6th. Ray purchased a 30-day Mexican auto insurance policy. He reached Acapulco on October 10th, proceeded to Guadalajara on October 5th, left there on the 18th for Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco, Mexico, arriving in Puerto Vallarta on the 19th. He registered in room 212 of the Hotel Rio. Gott typed a letter to the film company to ask for a refund to the Puerto Rico Vallarta address in lieu of the Kodak movie camera, which had been mailed meanwhile to his vacated Birmingham address. Again, the written signature on this note matched the string of Gott's signatures. For some reason, Huey says Ray said he wanted a week in a more expensive room in a hotel on the beach. Ray switched hotels going from Rio to the Hotel Tropicana. He spent most of his time in the period from October 19 to November 13, 1967 with the girlfriend, Irma Morales, whose true name is Manuela Aguirre Madreno, and possibly another female named Nina. Ray left Puerto Vallarta and drove to Los Angeles, where he rented an apartment. He then wrote a typed letter to the Superior Bulk Film Company, Chicago, to forward to his new address the refund due to him for the undelivered Kodak movie camera, the signatures matched. In his second week of his stay in Los Angeles, Ray begins a series of 6 visits to a clinical psychologist, Dr. Mark Freeman, in hopes of overcoming his shyness, gaining social confidence, learning self-hypnosis to gain relaxation, sleep, and remember things better. Apparently, in a further self-improving step, Ray enrolled in a course of dancing instruction. Why the fuck is any of this important? I don't give a fuck. This is just all fluff. Who cares? Not me. This is all before he killed Dr. King. Ray first indicated his interest in immigrating to Africa, and more particularly to a white rural area, by writing a letter of inquiry to Mr. John Accord, Chairman, American South African Council. Yeah, this is some bullshit right here. Care. Here we go. We're in 6-8, January. This nigga did a lot of moving around on the motherfucking run, but security was like that. They didn't have technology like they got now, but they did have technology. They was able to track his ass down in other countries. They had technology. It took their ass a long time to go through 175 passports, but good old-fashioned police work found them. And they was able to communicate across the lines and catch his ass with limited technology. Ray's 1966 white Mustang with Alabama license, registered in Alabama under alias Galt, was serviced at the 13th at a Chevron station, North Normandic Avenue, Los Angeles, with the mileage at 34,185. Oh, fuck this shit. I thought we was getting somewhere. Japanese handcuffs from Tiffany Enterprises, whatever that is. As intervals in his stay in Los Angeles, Ray had plastic surgery done to change his appearance, and allegedly put 7 other psychiatrists, hypnotists, and Scientologists. According to Arthur Huey, he frequented a bar known as the Rabbit's Foot Club, and one night became involved in a racial argument, followed by a mugging in which he had his wallet stolen and lost his suit jacket, car keys, and driver's license. According to Arthur Huey, citing Ray as his source, Ray telephoned Alabama and had a duplicate license issued. This was forwarded from his former Birmingham address to California. Damn, they ain't doing no shit like that now. And received there about March 10th, 1968. Galt was graduated from the bartending school on the 2nd of March. His picture was taken with the school operator. Ray closed his eyes to make recognition more difficult. A postal money order was sent to the Locksmithing Institute as a periodic payment on the corresponding course. New Orleans, I don't care. From New Orleans, Ray drove to Selma, Alabama, where Ray began to stalk Dr. King, according to Hughes' statement of Ray's admission on this. And after an overnight stay there, he went on to Montgomery, to Birmingham, and finally to Atlanta. In Atlanta, Ray rented room number 2 in a rooming house at 113 14th Street, northeast from the operator, Jimmy Delton Garner. He stayed there till March 28th, on which day, still in Atlanta, he purchased U.S. Postal Money Order payable to the Locksmith Institute. They keep saying the same shit. It's using 29th, Ray appeared at the Aero Marine Supply Company using the alias Harvey Lohmeyer, purchased a Remington 243 caliber rifle, model 700, with a 2x7 red field telescopic sight mounted on it, almost certainly because of the breech of the 243 caliber weapon was caked with a hardening preservative. It could not be loaded. Ray returned it the following day, not having fired it. He explained that his brother didn't like it and exchanged the 243 rifle for a model 760 caliber Remington. The scope was transferred to the latter rifle. Throughout the transaction, the package for either rifle was a Browning shotgun carton, which was large enough to hold the scope equipment Remingtons. The Atlanta rooming house operator, Jenny Delton Gardner, stated he had Ray print his name on an old envelope at Garner's request so that Garner could transfer the name properly to his official records. The handprinting is a match with other Galt Ray printing samples. Having used the name Eric Galt, Ray left his laundry and dry cleaner, which is still bullshit. Okay. 2 days later, Eric S. Galt, Ray on April 3rd, registered into room 304 at the Rebel Motor Hotel, Lamar Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee. The distance between Atlanta and Memphis by the most convenient route is 398 miles. He gave 2608 Highland Avenue, Birmingham as his address, and he noted on the registration card that he was driving a Mustang with Alabama license. His signature was the match to the other identified Galt signatures. On the same day, Ray purchased a safety razor and shaving supplies at the Rexall Drug Store in the Whitehaven suburb of Memphis. Ray left the Rebel Motel before the 1 p.m. checkout time on August 4th, at some point between 3 and 3:30. On the 4th, a man, generally answering Ray's description, rented room 5B at 422 South Main, Memphis, in the name of John Willard. Ray admits to having been in the room with Raoul, whom he first said rented the room using the Willard alias Ray, supplied in another letter to Huey. Ray states he himself rented the room using the alias. Ray went out to the York's Arm Company store located at 162 South Main and purchased a pair of Bushnell binoculars for a total of $41.55. Ray was identified by the salesman at York Arm, and Ray admits to having been to the sports store and to having made the purchase. By 5 p.m. at the latest, Ray had returned to the rooming house, parked his Mustang, had taken his zipper bag and bedspread to room 5B. By necessary inference, because it was admittedly brought down from there and dropped on the sidewalk. 3006 rifle had been taken up to room 5B at this time or just before Ray's trip to York Arms. As detailed in the discussion of the course of the FBI investigation, the assassin fled from the common bathroom at the rear of the rooming house after firing the shot that killed Dr. King. The assassin could have cleared, and undoubtedly did clear, the corridor and the stairs to the street in about 45 seconds. In another 15 seconds at the outside, he could have reached, and undoubtedly did reach, Ray's right vehicle, Mustang. After dropping Ray's bag, the rifle Ray bought and bearing only his fingerprints in the bedspread, which Ray admits taking up to room 5B, according to a post-conviction statement by Ray to the special agent in charge of the Memphis field office, Robert Jensen. Rumor Charles Stephen had a good look at Ray in the rooming house. On the street, Guy Warren Knipe Jr. in his place of business, Knipe musing, heard a thud near the front door of his store, looked to see a white male walking rapidly past his store going south, and with two customers in the store went to the front door where they observed a small white car Mustang, according to the two customers, pull away going just north, left to right from a curbside parking place just south of Knipe's store. According to Ray's admission to Arthur Huey, Ray drove south into Mississippi and then turned east through Birmingham, reaching Atlanta about 6 a.m. He abandoned the white Mustang on the table in the room at the Atlanta rooming house. He left a letter about South Africa from the John Birch Society in California and a copy of the Free Press from Los Angeles to divert the FBI's attention to California while he fled to Canada. Ray picked up his laundry at the Piedmont Laundry Pickup Station at 1168 Peachtree in Atlanta on the 5th of April. He was bold picking up laundry. He then took a bus departing Atlanta just after noon on the 5th and arrived in Cincinnati about 1:30 on the 6th of April. After 1 hour layover, which he stated he spent in a tavern near the bus depot, Ray continued by bus to Detroit, where he arrived at about 8 a.m. He crossed by taxi into Canada, arriving in Windsor an hour or so before noon, and proceeded from there to Toronto by train, arriving at 5 p.m. He rented a room without giving his name. On the 8th of April, Ray began the process of securing a Canadian passport. He picked two names, Paul Edward Brisbane, Ramon George Snide, from the announcements of births in the newspaper for the year. He made an application for a duplicate birth certificate in each of these names on April 10th, and on the following day had a passport picture taken in the name of Brisbane. And then to provide a separate mailing address for the expected replies as to Snide, he rented a room in the name of Snide. On the same day, he executed an application in the name Paul Brisbane with his Ray's Ossington Avenue address as the person to be notified in case of emergency. The Kennedy Travel Agency of Toronto handled the processing of the application for Ray. On the 19th, Ray moved to the Dundas Street address. So yeah, you were just able to do too much shit. So he saw some names in the newspaper and said, ooh, them some real names that was being born. Hey, I need some duplicate birth certificates. And he got them. The fingerprints of Eric S. Galt were found to be a match of those of James Earl Ray after searching the print file on fugitive felons. According to Arthur Hugh, he gleaned from Ray that Ray visited 4 bars on the 21st in order to watch the TV show The FBI. He found the show tuned in at the 4th place he tried and learned that he had made the 10 most wanted list with an international lookout as to Ray. He checked out the Ossington Avenue room on the 19th. On April 24th, the Canadian passports in the name of Raymond George Snyer was issued to Ray. Ray purchased a round-trip ticket to London, departed May 6th. From London, Ray took a plane to Lisbon, where he spent 10 days looking for a passage to Angola. When he was able to do so, he returned to London after first getting his passport replaced at the Canadian Embassy in Lisbon to correct the spelling of the name Snide instead of Sneer. Ray returned to London and spent his time trying to find a way to join the mercenary force. To this end, he bought a plane ticket to Brussels, was in the process of meeting his plane at Heathrow Airport when he was apprehended by detectives from Scotland Yard. The arrest was made on the basis of use of a fraudulent passport and carrying a concealed weapon. The loaded .38 caliber Japanese-make revolver found on his person. This chronology has been compiled from data in FBI reports and Ray's letters to Arthur William Bradford Huey. It was hoped by the task force we would have an opportunity to go over the facts with James Earl Ray himself. Accordingly, after United States Accordingly, after the United States Supreme Court denied his petition for writ of certiorari on December 13th, a verbal request was made by Ray's attorney, James H. Lesser, for an opportunity to interview Ray. Lesser stated he was writing Ray a letter that day and would advise him of our desires to interview him and leave the matter up to him. Also, the task force sent the letter to Ray December 1976 via his attorney requesting an interview. While no answer to our letter was received, Ray sent the task force a copy of a letter addressed to his attorney. Ray attached a copy of a complaint he recently filed in a civil action and stated in the letter to his attorney, "I agree with your advice opposing the interview. It would appear that this would only be in the interest of the JD and their book writing collaborators." Also, a statement to us from Ray. 4 existing Ray explanations were compared and are here briefly noted. First, no one other than his attorneys talked with Ray before the plea bargaining resulted in his conviction of the first-degree murder of Martin Luther King Jr. and sentencing in open court. At that time, on voir dire, Judge Battle asked Ray, "Are you pleading guilty to murder in the first degree in this case because you killed Dr. Martin Luther King? Under such circumstances, that would make you legally guilty of murder in the first degree under the law as explained to you by your lawyers?" Ray answered yes. Ray then acknowledged he was pleading guilty freely, voluntarily, and understandingly. He and his attorney, Person Foreman, initialed a copy of these questions and answers. Ray also signed a detailed stipulation confessing that he fired the fatal shot. The task force observes that the only way one can be legally guilty of first-degree murder is when one accomplishes or aids or assists in the accomplishment of the wrongful killing of a human being with premeditation and malice aforethought. Thus, Ray has judicially confessed that he intended to and did kill Dr. King. Second, Ray related in his writing to Arthur Huey a Memphis story of his oddity from Missouri State Prison to Memphis, which acknowledged he bought the murder weapon, made his way to Memphis, rented the room there at 422 South Main on April 1st, using the alias John Willard, waited in the white Mustang and drove Raoul away from the crime scene after the murder, wholly unaware of the killing of Dr. King. In this version, Raoul or Raw is the mysterious killer who Ray thought to be an international gun runner. Ray bought the murder weapon for Raoul, thinking it was to be displayed to prospective Mexican buyers in room 5B of the Flophouse. Third, in a statement read on a program of station KMOX-TV St. Louis, Missouri, in August of 1969 by his brother Jerry, James Earl Ray was quoted as alleging he was the innocent victim, the fall guy of a scheme by the FBI. This description of the crime contains no references to Raoul. Fourth, the most recent story available to the task force is reported as the result of a 4-hour interview with Wayne Testas Jr. for the Pacific News Service, October 20th, 1974. It is to that effect that Ray was set up as a patsy for Raoul. It proceeds along the same lines as the tale told by Ray to Arthur Huey that there was to be a meeting at the rooming house at 6 p.m. with the international gun Mustang at the curb for Raoul's use that evening. Ray, however, drove away from that area about 6 p.m. to get air in a low tire and found police swarming all over the place when he tried to return at 7:05. He could not park. He was turned back by police and only learned after driving 100 miles into Mississippi that he'd been associated with the man who killed Dr. King. Boy, stop. The task force views this exculpatory content of these varying and patently self-serving tales to be unbelievable. The varying details are materially self-refuting. Ray first admits full guilt. He then says he waited innocently at the curb and took off after the shot with Raoul as the passenger. He next says he was the cat's paw of the FBI, and finally he and the Mustang were not in the area when the shot was fired, and he never saw Raul after the event. The eyewitnesses to the getaway saw only one man who resembled Ray. The man left in a hurry in a white Mustang, as Ray admitted doing in version number 2. We concluded Ray was lying about the existence of a Raul. Ray's stipulated confession comports in detail with the facts disclosed by the investigation, and the failure of the self-serving stories persuasively undermines the likelihood of any conspiracy. Motive. Oh, gosh. This is bullshit. I don't care about the motive. Let's see what the motive says. They say FBI files disclose he has an IQ of 105. Criminal activities, robbery, forgery, burglary. He was not known to have been involved in crimes where victims or witnesses were physically harmed. James Earl Ray was 40 and was never known to have a serious relationship with a man or a woman during his adult life, although he was about to commit a very infamous crime of assassination. Neither his childhood, his military years, or his adult life of crime and imprisonment signaled such action. Why then would James murder Dr. King? Reveal some probative facts with respect to motive. For example, 55, Ray was incarcerated in the federal penitentiary at Leavenworth, Kansas for forgery for post office money orders. On September 12th, Ray was approved for the honor farm at Leavenworth, but was never transferred there because he refused to live in the integrated dormitory at the farm. Thus, he was supposedly willing to sacrifice this benefit and its accompanying imprisonments to avoid association with black prisoners. The inmate with Ray in Missouri State Penitentiary for approximately 3 years stated Ray hated Negroes. He further stated that Ray had said all the Negro prisoners inside the penitentiary should be killed. He also responded that on several occasions Ray had said he would kill Dr. King if the price were right. In '66, there was a riot at the penitentiary. 3 blacks were killed. The inmates would not state whether Ray had participated in the killing, but did say if Ray had not, he would definitely know who killed the prisoners. He had also said he would not be surprised if he acted without being paid for the killing. It should also be noted another prisoner who was the chef at MSP said Ray's boss for 6 years stated that this inmate was a good friend of Ray, and he also hated Negroes. A second inmate with Ray claimed that he recalls Ray was glad when President Kennedy was killed and stated that is one nigger-loving SOB that got shot. The prisoner also advised that Ray disliked Negroes. During that time, he would curse King and the nigger. He would become aggravated and upset when reading this information in newspapers to the point he would curse King and the Negroes. He further stated he heard prison rumors that Ray was supposed to have killed 3 black prisoners at the penitentiary. We almost there. It says 1-2 out of 113. I need some more water though. I need more water. Oh, not water. I'm drinking my energy drink. Now I need water because it's gone. Finally, he related that in 1963, Ray made the remark that he was going to get Martin Luther King when he got out of prison. A third inmate described Ray as a lone wolf who never trusted anyone. He stated Ray was a racist and was heard many times discussing his dislike of Negroes. Another prisoner became acquainted with Ray in '65 and said Ray commented if he ever got out of jail, he was going to make himself a bunch of money. And Ray further said a businessman's association had offered $1,000 for killing MLK. This prisoner said that Ray did not know what the Businessmen's Association was, but he intended to find out. cellmate with Ray. During the period when President Kennedy was assassinated, the movies of Dr. King became a topic of conversation at the penitentiary. Many prisoners heard the businessman had raised a considerable amount of money, about $1 million, as the bounty on King's head. He further stated that Ray mentioned a dozen times that he had known about the bounty on John F. Kennedy's head, and had he been free, he would have collected it. And if he got out in time and King was still alive, he would get the bounty on King. A psychological. There were two matters involving Ray and blacks while outside prison, which shed some light on whether his hatred of blacks and need for importance and profit had motivated him to murder. While in Mexico in the fall of '67, Ray associated with a Mexican woman in the city of Puerto Vallarta. Morales admitted spending considerable time with him, recalls an incident that took place on Sunday, October 29th. She and Ray were seated at a table in a bar and were drinking when 4 blacks and several white persons arrived and were seated at another table. She stated that Ray kept goading the blacks for some reason. Therefore, Ray left his table to go to the car, and when he returned, he asked her to fill his pocket. Morales did and felt the pistol in his pocket. Ray stated to Morales that he wanted to kill the blacks. He then continued to be insulting, and when the blacks left, he stated he wanted to go after them. Morales, however, told him it was time for the police to arrive and check the establishment, and Ray stated he wanted nothing to do with police, thereby terminating the incident. Second incident took place during Ray's stay in Los Angeles. James E. Morton, bartender at Rabbit's Foot Club there, identified Ray as a frequent customer, said that on one occasion Ray became enraged in a political discussion with him regarding Robert Kennedy and George Wallace. Ray became rather incensed and vehemently supported Wallace. On another occasion, Ray had a discussion with Pat Goodsell, a frequent female customer, concerning blacks in the civil rights movement. Ray became very involved and began dragging Goodsell towards the door, saying, "I'll drop you off in Watts and we'll see how you like it there." Ray then supposedly went outside and had to fight 2 persons, one being black. Thus, it seems clear that Ray openly displayed a strong racist attitude towards black. Yeah, I got to change the title of this. Source of funds. Shortly after search for Ray began, it was recognized that he had traveled extensively following his escape. Moreover, in addition to normal living expenses, Ray had made several expensive purchases. These expenditures suggested he had financial assistance and hence possible co-conspirators. Therefore, the Bureau was particularly interested in determining his sources of income. Advised all field divisions to consider Ray as a suspect in any unsolved bank robberies, burglaries, or armed robberies. According after April 23rd, the results were negative. Agent results, no. Reminded all field divisions, Ray has spent a considerable amount of money from April 23rd until April 23rd, 67 to April 4th, 68, and advised that the source of these monies had not been determined. Fruitless. As a result, did ascertain Ray had been employed at a restaurant as a dishwasher and a cook's helper, and checks totaling. This is only known source of income. Indicated no known robberies or burglaries up there in Canada. It is the Bureau's opinion Ray most likely committed on a periodic basis several robberies or burglaries during this period to support himself, but more robberies than burglaries. Background that led credence to this theory. It's nothing else. James did have some money because it was he who paid for their expenses, which included according to sources for raised funds still remains a mystery. Family contacts and assistance. All right. This is the rest of this looks like bullshit. Yeah, this is nothing. Okay, that's the first document. So what I gotta do? I don't know how I get to the second document. I'll figure it out though. Just not right now. All right, y'all. That was the first part of it. We got to get to the, see, these notes didn't say anything. These notes didn't say anything about, hold on, I'm texting Truth back. She says she okay, cool. Yeah, these notes didn't say nothing about him being high and all of that good stuff and them going into the harassment that they did of him. So I got to make sure I got the right damn PDF and get the second one out to you guys. We'll 2 hours and 45 minutes. I guess I'll probably do that second part tonight. Fuck it. I'll go and get it out the way. And then tomorrow I'll do the Lord Jamar and Godfrey beef. That's very, very interesting. But until the next episode, we out. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shoot this bitch ass with the quickness. Now he bleeding, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Biscuit. All my niggas wildin', they done labeled us a misfit. Wake up every morning, 2 or 3, 5 in the Fitbit. Oh shit, didn't nobody come to see you old, it's some focus. Shoot 100 shots, no reloaded. Master of the game, you would think I'm into coded. Memphis niggas spit this pimpin', mackin' like I'm golden. Ho, with my money, you gon' turn me to the old me. Stay high, first class flight, I'm in the nosebleed. Copy, cooking, whipping, shipping, till you count the proceeds. OG, I've been moving back niggas since 03. Low key, niggas hating, but they don't want no beat. State gang, true sippers, bitch, I bet we gon' eat. Get jammed, get a lawyer, make it bunny, don't speak. Pour up, oh, I need some more. A nigga had a long week. Shout out to my plug, he showed me love, he out in Long Beach. I'm true geek, walking by myself but left with 2 freaks. Ooh, we nothing in they mouth and on they booty. Austin Power swag, yeah baby, this is groovy. You can call me money boy or you can call me nudie. Hood niggas, churches, chicken, let me get a 2-piece. Top down 2-seater, let me feel the 2 breathe. Gotta hold it steady, chopper, kick it back like Bruce Lee. Lately I've been in the zone, I guess I'm in my 2-3. Don't call my phone for nothing less than a QP. Feeling like the Migos, cause my bitch is bad and bougie. All my haters love me, all these bitches just some groupies. Came a long way, I like to introduce the new me. Standing on business like I'm king or like I'm Drewski. Call me Ron Island, cause I like my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. Call me Ron Island, cause I love my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. I never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shoot this bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Biscuit. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot this bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 Limp Biscuit.